save our sciences. If you're a little bit in the dark about all this and wonder what all this is about, let me start with a bit of context and say that it's fair to say that the sciences in general, if you think about some of the administrations on a global scale, are a little bit in a different paradigm to where they used to be. So if you look at, say, what might be happening in the likes of the US at the moment, where the credibility and discussion around the role of science has been heavily influenced by administration who at this present time doesn't seem to recognise the value of some of the sciences, especially in the context of aspects of some environmental and global warming. Where you do have administrators that are interested in science, you also sometimes have this concept of where science fits in to the role of society. And more to the point, the scepticism about whether or not at the end of the day, science is also being led by special interests. I think we're lucky in New Zealand. I don't think that we have, not to the same degree anyway, some of these concerns. But nonetheless, when it comes to the role of science, it's fair to say that those who are in opposition to those that have philosophies around aspects of environment or global change are the very first to criticise, if you like, Greta in the context of you're not a scientist, you're not talking from a science perspective, you don't know what you're talking about. So it's very easy when you're in opposition and you say that to someone such as Greta in her current situation, but when she comes back and says, my advice is we should listen to the science, then you've got this interesting anomaly of those denying the role of science and saying it's utter bullshit. Well, is it? We certainly think not at Massey University. In fact, we pride our sciences heavily, and especially that is the case in the Albany campus, where I've had the pleasure and the privilege of being associated with the campus and its research over the past 20 years. As you will have seen, just a few snippets here, and as you will have heard throughout the media, there's obviously big considerations and proposals that are currently being put forward at this present time. So what's the fuss about, and why are we here, and why are we talking about this today? Well, in essence, as I stand here at this moment, we're lucky that we basically have a brand new BSc program, literally lean and mean and recently tailored by a lot of hard work from many, many hundreds of academic staff, most of which very much focus on the Albany campus. We've got a nice solid history of growth in the Albany area in terms of both our population as well as, of course, our actual academic population, so our student numbers are growing well. We've got an excellent track record of research and enterprise, showing very much on the international level what we're capable of. And most critical of all in many aspects of these arguments that we're currently involved in, is that established iwi, community stakeholder engagement. A university is more than just a building that's full of academics doing their stuff. It's about a partnership. It's about scientists working alongside, embedded in community. And Auckland Sciences has done an excellent job of that over the years. It's also got, much to our excitement, a brand new building, as you can see here. This is its structure here, the world-class innovation complex, which is currently, as we speak, under construction right in the middle, in the heart of our campus. So it's something that's extraordinarily exciting. However, what is proposed and currently on the table is set to change this in a devastating way, we believe as scientists. What is being proposed is the ultimate removal of all natural sciences from the Auckland campus. No further sciences in the natural arena being offered at Auckland, including, as you can see here, the core aspects of biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and many, many other. Added on top of that, complete disestablishment of marine biology, plant biology, and a few others too, which is also obviously on a personal level for me rather devastating, considering the work we've done obviously just in the marine sphere alone. And ultimately the isolation of engineering and computer science only left on the Auckland campus. Everything else gone. If not completely gone, retrenched back to Palmerston North. Now, it's fair to say there's been a fair few scientists within the Auckland arena that have been fairly outspoken about this, and I've definitely been one of them. And maybe the cynic amongst us might sit there and say, well, that's understandable, you've got skin in the game. This is about jobs and livelihood and those kind of considerations. And of course, those things do play a part. But realistically, the voice of anger that is currently generated from the Albany campus is about disappointment. It's about an untrust that somehow, after 20-odd years of building, not only with our community, with our hapu, with our stakeholders and our engagers, is suddenly now in jeopardy. And for what? Let me just remind you that if this was just about skin in the game, you wouldn't have seen Massey scientists over the years on the front line, being the voice of science, marching for science, standing up to those different aspects that need to be stood up to in terms of making sure our voice was loud and heard. We believe in science. This is not just about jobs and livelihoods. This is about more than just a role. It's about actual a physical presence and an engagement and a relationship that we have with our community. This is one of the reasons why we invest so heavily in our engagement with the public, and this is just one of many different ways we do this through the Fascination Sciences forums. This is where we invite the public into the university, not just to meet those academics that are actually on the front line doing the work on the grass level at our own institute, but more importantly also bringing you in to see some of the distinguished professors and external researchers that come onto the university campus as well. These Fascination Science seminars are just one classic example of where we're demonstrating that we are a part of a community. We're not aside from the community, not just working with or beyond the community, but we're engaged and embedded in it. And of course, it's all because we need science. And we're not alone in that thinking. It's fair to say that the New Zealand government has recognised this. Only in December of last year, it announced yet more investment in sciences, in the STEM, so in the science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It's all about identifying the fact that there is much to be done in the STEM subjects. And the whole idea, of course, is to expose, government words, more New Zealanders to STEM. So I pose to you, how is taking away the sciences in Auckland, our biggest urban population area, our biggest area of growth, going to expose more New Zealanders to STEM? It clearly isn't. Government and their investment into programs like Unlocking Curious Minds is all about getting New Zealanders excited and engaged in science. That's why I'm in science. This is why my colleagues are in science. We believe in the messaging of empirical data, research-based teaching. That's what we've been taught all along as academics. Why would we shy away from that now? Science at Massey Albany campus has a proud history. If you look at the context of just our undergrad stats alone, we're talking about over 2,000 students across 3 different schools. As you can see, far-ranging. On top of that, the very heavy basis of postgraduate research and supervision. These are some of the best moments as an academic engaging with PhDs and master's students. The concept of not having that here in Auckland is not something that any of the academics have been able to really take on board. And why would we? We are offering a critical service here, a tertiary line for students who are interested in science, not just in Auckland, but right the way through the sector, right the way up to the far north. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were up in Northland, talking with the hapu there, talking about how we're going to engage on different community-based projects, terrestrial and marine. So we have that good basis, solid education in both North Shore and Northland. Add to that the fact that our numbers clearly show over a 10-year period steady, good, solid growth. So there doesn't seem to be a problem, and that's not our words. This is actually the words of the President of the New Zealand Association of Scientists, who said the public numbers clearly demonstrate we have steady growth. We have steady yet tight finances. We're stable. We're taking all sorts of risks here to change science offerings in Auckland on such a radical level. For what? What is the basis here? Especially when, of course, you take into consideration universities are not businesses. That much I think we should all agree on. Secondly, they're also not just teaching, they're research providers. We have some of the best researchers in New Zealand at Auckland. Why would you jeopardise that? Why would you look along the scores of PBRF ranking and other research awards and medals and so forth and think to yourselves that these possibly are either staff or positions that shouldn't be in place? Aren't these the very best people to be inspiring the next generation of leaders? I would argue so. Fellowships, medals. All these things might sound academic, but they are a true testament to the quality of the staff that are based at the Auckland campus. The very same staff that engage with students, undergraduate and postgraduate, on a daily level and get the most awesome, the most humbling feedback ever. Through the past 10 days, it's been fair to say that most of the staff, my colleagues, have felt highly pushed and highly taunt in the whole what's going on. But the most humbling, the most best parts is being approached by some of your ex-students and told that without your input, they wouldn't be where they are now. Why would we jeopardise that? Of course, most distinguished of academics, including a Rutherford medal holder, and as I say, all up across the whole academic unit, we're talking about some of the best, strongest competitive researchers in New Zealand. What is the rationale behind such a decision? Especially when I'm going to take you on a journey of sciences at Massey University, Auckland. And I'm going to talk to you about the variety of different academics and projects that are done under both the most senior staff right the way through to the most emerging postgraduate students, who we are immensely proud of on those journeys. Whether it be the likes of the physics, the solar system, the new planets, through to health science, and more to the point, the fundamental sciences that underpin those often very applied mechanisms in health, such as this excellent work here by one of our leading mathematicians. Likewise, in the chemistry, again, think about the health relations to this, whether it be that you're looking at the context of fundamental chemistry to underline and underpick some of these most critical issues of drugs, right the way through to environmental monitoring. These are what some of our best chemists are doing on the Auckland campus. On top of these innovations, we're engaging, we're exploring, we're inspiring. We're there to teach, we're there to enjoy and to immerse our passions and our sciences into the community. And that's one of the most beautiful things about working at Massey University, where our sizes, our enrollments are just at the right level where we get that personal connection with students. Students are not just bums on seats. They are not just a number. They're more than just a name. They're actually colleagues and they're part of our team, which is why we take so personally that concept of not having them anymore and not being a part of that research community with them anymore. Their engagement in the community, their engagement in their passions and their sciences is second to none. And when you think about that, how critical is that in a fast-evolving world? One of new and emerging problems. Coronavirus is a classic example of that. You've got aspects of research that's being looked at about predicting infectious disease. Yet one of the best, most poignant of infectious disease modelers is based here at the Auckland campus, Professor Mick Roberts. He's at the very forefront of corona and many other different infection diseases that have been through New Zealand over those cycles. He's not alone. Some of our microbiologists and our molecular biologists are leading the technologies in these spheres, how to detect these viruses, how to control them at the most quickest rate by mobile devices such as this. Likewise, in our health and our molecular, whether it be cancer, whether it be heart disease, there's no end to the kind of applications of real-world problems that these scientists that are under threat at this present time are facing. Can we afford, not Massey, not necessarily Auckland, but New Zealand, can we afford to lose talent like this? I would argue strongly no. Likewise, issues, whether it be conservation of bees, whether it be aspects of understanding bacteria evolution and what that means for microbiome, antibiotics, thank you, in the future. We can't afford to lose those kind of skill sets, that volume of knowledge that over 20 years and more has evolved on the campus as a result of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research science. And I'll come to that more in just a second. We are isolated in New Zealand, geography-wise at least. Thankfully, the social media world and every other world for that matter has evolved very quickly around us. But our scientists have pivotal roles to play in Asia, in Europe, on all different scope levels, whether it be physics, whether it be chemistry, biology or otherwise. We play an important role in these sectors, and we would lose massive credibility in a New Zealand context and lose some of these most poignant scientists in the event that these proposals continue. Likewise, in the zoology sphere, which I appreciate is very much more the remit of the audience I'm in front of at the moment, is very strong at Massey, and especially at Auckland, where you've got zoologists working on international collaborations on everything from 3D printing to the likes of exactly what I look at here. These are not great to be passing around large classrooms of very excited undergraduates. None of you want to preserve them. But if you want that teaching experience and you want those students to get an absolute sense and feel for what they are studying, then technologies like 3D printing and the concept of working in with museum specimens to be able to open the world to students in more than just having to be in some kind of very old dusty museum. As we know, the past is set in stone. Let's hope that Massey's past is not set in stone. Let's hope we can move forward with the future, and the future very much is engagement with face-to-face. Nobody denies the value of digital technology. Nobody denies the benefits that we could have with some of the mechanisms that are being proposed. That is not a substitute for outright teaching though, especially in the sciences. And I think it's fair to say that our Vice Chancellor and our senior leadership do understand that, but maybe we just have to be making sure that we're very clear on what this means for our future. The future, apparently, according to these guys, is indeed AI. And to some extent they're right. Your phones, your cars, your washing machines, everything is run on artificial intelligence. We know that. It's a daily part of our lives, even if we don't recognise it. But we have some of the most senior computer and software engineers sitting literally just 30 kilometres down the road from here. Again, this is talent and inspiring leadership in these fields that we can't afford to lose, not only from Massey, but notably from New Zealand, because that's the other problem we have. By disestablishing programs and disestablishing roles, you're running the risk of losing an awful lot of expertise needed here in New Zealand. It's one of our biggest challenges, as I think most people know. Our integration of scientists from around the world coming to Massey University in Auckland, coming to engage at different scientific forums, coming to meet with other scientists from different countries to exchange, to knowledge share. These are the things we're most proud of. We're most proud of the partnerships that we've formed. Just a few of them are shown here. These partnerships, as I mentioned before, are equally, in some cases, far more important even than some of these attributes I talked before about. Because it's the community and the partnerships that allow us to do the work that we do, whether that be Department of Conservation, primary industries, whether it be teletaos or the councils, NGOs, IGOs, you name it, they're part of that discovery learning for all. And of course, for me and for many other academics I know, what the biggest privilege for us is the training, the guardianship and the nurturing of the next generation of scientists. Importantly, the next generation of leaders. Because look at the legacy we're currently leaving them. With the global warming, the ocean acidification and the truckload of other things that we could name, but for fear of depressing you I won't, we need good leaders, we're going to need good scientists. How is removing the sciences going to do that? Obviously my passion, as most of you know, if you've encountered me before, is in the marine realm. And I tend to have a tendency for the large and the blubbery. The reality of it is, though, is the marine mammals and their apex positioning in the food chain are just one of a multitude of different species that we impact with what we do. Everything from the importance of agriculture, the understanding of indigenous species, and also cultural value of that data is critical to New Zealand. And we have top scientists here in Auckland working on those things. They are under threat. We run the risk of losing that expertise. The best thing, I think personally, in my personal experience of 20 years at Massey in Auckland, is the multidisciplinary approach. There are few model systems out there where you can do a project where you're working with a chemist, a statistician, and a marine biologist. The ability to look across those boundaries, break those silos, and find solutions like the best think tanks of the world do is what happens here in Auckland. Why would we lose that expertise? Why would we lose that positioning? I'll mention at speed, because I know time will otherwise tick away, some of the many examples of just a few examples of projects that we do at Massey in Auckland. I've obviously heavily biased some of these because, again, I know my audience here. But in relation to the next generation of spatial mapping, like what's happening with the Department of Conservation for sea change at the moment, here on Auckland's Hauraki Gulf. This is about researchers in the field and staff, I hasten to add. This is Odette, not only a PhD student, but an actual staff member at Massey University. Likewise, my own work and that of one of my PhD students, Rebecca Boyce. We're doing work in association with iwi, with the likes of the Bob Kerridge, the Department of Conservation, Project Jonah, who we have here in the audience today. These are all stakeholders, these are all invested in the work that we do. They are equally passionate and needing the data, the research, and that formation with us. It's teamwork. Taking out spokes of wheels means wheels collapse, bikes don't run. And this is what we're running the risk of. Some of our marine biologists are far overseas too, whether it be in our territorial waters or indeed whether it be in the likes of Hong Kong waters where they're looking at aquaculture. The whole idea is that we have got a diverse range of scientists working on a diverse range of projects, likewise with our students. And the quality of the research is clearly demonstrated when you've got the likes of Rutherford Discovery Fellowships being handed out to my colleague here. This is one of the associate professors in marine biology that's recently got a Rutherford based on his work with climate change. Now, doesn't Massey University pride itself on doing research that's about fixing both today and tomorrow's problems? Can we afford to lose talent like this? I mentioned this is all about citizenship, not just academics sitting in ivory towers doing research. It's about citizenship where research is done by citizens. So much of the work that we do in marine space often engages and is using the public in the research that's happening, whether it be in the identification or compiling of data for fish species, whether it be literally in the process of social media groups. One of my master's students, Blair Outhwaite, part of his master's was completely on using some of the citizenship data that came from these social media platforms on the presence of bottlenose dolphins here in Auckland's Hauraki Gulf. It massively complemented the line transit data we'd done in systematic surveys with boats, showing in many aspects that many of our surveys miss some of the very sightings that citizenship data could fill in. Again, fisheries, agriculture, mussel farms, the amount of work that goes into these different types of projects, and this is just in the marine space. Haven't even got to terrestrial yet. The predator-free, the 2050 paradigm that the Department of Conservation is working towards, the goal that is in place for conservation, the likes of the work that's done by so many of these staff and students in helping that goal reach its fruition, including looking at sites that are disturbed as a consequence of anthropogenic influences, looking at what reptiles are actually captured from those areas and more to the point, how we can increase the survivorship of those particular individuals. How that also feeds into programs such as translocations. This is all critical stuff that we in New Zealand pride ourselves on. Can we afford to lose our own New Zealand translocation reptile facility? Because that's housed here in Auckland. As is so much of the excellent work done by so many of our students. This is why it's hard not to almost take personal the aspect of what we face here, the loss of so many excellent researchers that are not just academics, but they are active conservationists, active scientists who are engaged, not working alongside, but immersed in the community and the NGOs, IGOs, and other factors that they feed into. We have, without doubt, an avian team at Massey, Auckland, led by Diane and some of her colleagues in relation to animal culture and avian bioacoustics. Work coming from these groups is at its top end. It's recognised internationally. It brings in international students of all different countries, doing all sorts of work on all parts of Auckland and New Zealand. Whether it be in the mangrove areas, whether it be in those overlap regions, whether it be in human impacts, whether it be literally how we understand the role of some of these regions. Our facilities had not sprung up overnight. Our facilities have been built as part of a small team that in the best part has taken more than 20 years to establish. To establish them in 20 years, to lose them overnight, that does not seem a good deal for New Zealand. not academia, not research, not conservation, not students. And of course, our research team go from the depths of New Zealand to the far-flung of the island. So Luis and his team work in the Galapagos, working on all sorts of endemic species too. So the conservation of ends has no boundaries, as we know. And nor does our outreach, our impacts to the community, our impacts to both the children right the way through to the adults. I had the pleasure of working with some of the youngest children, the preschoolers. Nothing gets them excited more than dead dolphins. Sounds grim, I know. We never show them the blood. We only show them the clean side. But exploring what the fascination children have with science on a campus that's immersed around local communities, around schools, around kindergartens, is an absolute privilege, and one that, quite frankly, I'm not willing to give up without a fight. We want to basically stay doing what we do well and what our community tells us we do well. And that's all through the levels. This is Professor Jim Dale talking hypotheses with Year 3s. Our outreach is not just about our immediate community, say on the North Shore or over here or over east or even south, although this actually, in this case, is specifically about introducing STEM to South Auckland students, having a continued role that we as a university, I understand, have pledged towards in continuing that very valuable and important role of giving those opportunities to South Auckland students and schools coming into Massey University. I certainly don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that opportunity to feed the minds of children and feed the minds right the way through to the classes that we run, to the research students we supervise, to the seminars we give, to the NGOs we engage with, and to the managers who knock on our door or ring us and say, how are we supposed to manage this facility? Or any advice on this particular stranding event? Or are you concerned about the role of pollutants in toxoplasmosis prevalence in Hector's dolphins? We need to have a role, and we have a role, and we do it well. Why take that away from the community, and why take it away from Massey University? What is the food of a good leader? Is it science? Is it education? Is it communication? Something that's been a very big conversation at Massey University over the recent couple of weeks on how this proposal has been delivered, both to its staff and to its students. I would argue that if we have any chance of solving today's problems as well as what's to come tomorrow, we do need to think about what we do with our sciences. And I would argue to allow the sciences to disappear from Auckland, which, as we've said, is your largest population mass and your growth area. To remove those sciences would not best service the population, the community, New Zealand, or indeed the bigger conservation problems that we have to face tomorrow. On that note, this is where we ask your engagement. Over 8,500 people so far have already responded to this petition. There has been hundreds of letters of support, I understand, from over 80 countries internationally raised to this particular proposal to axe the sciences. Because this isn't about a university anymore. This is about taking away an opportunity for a generation to learn core science subjects that will not just serve them well in the future, but will serve their communities and also their whānau. Thank you very much.